Yo, 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 yo. What up, Comic Sense Community Crowd Crew? That would be the 3C family. I am Issue X, and we're back again with a special episode of CSP Comic Sensory Perception. Y'all see the title. The Something is Killing the Children Anomaly and Other Comic Universes with Potential. We're gonna get into it. A lot of big things happening in the comic industry surrounding some of these indie universes and these indie properties. And obviously, the one leading the charge is Something is Killing the Children. It has been leading the charge for some time. People were in, people were out. We're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about some of the other universes as well. Something is Killing the Children, a part of what we are calling, or I call at Comic Sense, the tripartite power of 2019. That would include 3 books, 3 independent books that dropped in 2019, 2 of them from Boom, 1 of them from Image Comics, that have amazing potential. They dropped at the right time, and the creative teams behind them are top notch. So before we get into this, I want to shout out to everyone that's in the room. I will be bringing up your comments. We're going to talk about it. But before we get into that, as always, we want to pay some bills. We want to keep some lights on. This nice little ring light here. We want to keep it on. So then I'm going to need you to like and follow Comic Sense on Facebook and join our Comic Sense Facebook group if you have not. Check us out on YouTube, subscribe to the channel, follow us at Comic Sense on Instagram. You're going to see that continue to scroll through for the rest of the show. Listen, if you are watching on Facebook, take a second, go over to YouTube, click play on the video. We're going live. Give us a thumbs up, give us a thumbs down. Just don't do nothing. Do something that haven't been said. Let me throw your comments up. Shout out to everyone in the room. So then, Something is Killing the Children, the Anomaly. Why is this an anomaly, and why do we call it an anomaly? Why have we been calling it an anomaly here at Comic Sense for some years now? The reason why is because you would be hard pressed to find another indie book or book that has achieved the aftermarket value in the period of time that Something is Killing the Children did. And I'm speaking in the entire history of comic books. That is why it is an anomaly. This is not to say that we will never have another book that does to the market what this book did. And we're talking sustainability, right? We're not talking flash in the panism. We're talking sustainability on the market, right? We have not seen a book do what Something is Killing. We're talking it dropped in 2019. By summer of 2020, we're talking a $75. I remember $75 book is what the A cover was going for by summer of 2020. Late summer, August, September-ish, late summer, early fall. But by that, we're talking a book that dropped in, I want to say October-ish of 2019. Because the first book that really, Boom has had several books, but going into COVID, Boom had a best-selling drop, which for Boom, we're talking like 60,000 copies. It's a best-selling drop for Boom, with Once and Future, written by the great Kieran Gillen. We're going to get into that. Then Something is Killing the Children dropped around Halloween, as did Philadelphia, the tripartite power of 2019. And the 3 books, in my opinion, that are left on the table. Obviously, of the 3, it is Something is Killing the Children that is leading the charge. As a matter of fact, there isn't a book that has come out since Something is Killing the Children that is doing what Something is Killing the Children has done. There are exceptions, right? Single one-offs. Your first Toast and Adoy as an example of a one-off book, the 1 in 25. There are some exceptions, some weird exclusive covers of certain books that have high dollar value. But as far as a series goes, Something is Killing the Children is the time after time of the third decade of the 21st century. It is the time after time, so to speak. Shout out to Diagia. Shout out to Peter Maresca. Shout out to the Comic Sense Community Crowd Crew once again. It is the time after time. It's been said by producers that every producer wants to produce a time after time. It is like the bar, right, for production in music. Something is Killing the Children is the bar for the third decade of the 21st century. It's the bar. No book has done what it has done. Why? We talked about this on another podcast, the Comic Menu podcast. Shout out to the Comic Menu podcast, by the way. Talked about this briefly. We're talking a perfect storm of events, right? And I'm going to piss some people off. So James Tanyan is writing this book. And if you read Something Is Killing the Children, we're not talking about like what James Tynion did on Joker or even on Batman or even Department of Truth, right? This is a 5-minute read, cover to cover. Very consumable. Very, 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 it's just a consumable piece. He's not writing Pulitzer Prize winning, none of that. None of that. Eisner Award for sure. None of that. None of this is happening, right? This is not what we're getting from Something That's Killing the Children. We're getting a very basic premise, a very basic story, very basic dialogue, very basic prose, and a very basic framework. A plus. We live in an era, especially in the 21st century, where the internet is on high and most people alive that matter, not most people alive, excuse me, but most people that are moving and shaking things were born in with cell phones all around. We're born with the internet all around, and we're learning, i.e. TikTok and Instagram and Reels, that what people want are things that they can consume quickly. Yeah, it's cool to listen to a podcast for an hour, hour and a half. On your way to work, it's cool. But it's also cool to listen to Reels, to watch Reels, to watch TikTok, to consume things that you can consume very quickly, get the gist of it, and move on. It helps if those things that you are consuming are good, because it makes you want more. It also helps, in the case with Something That's Killing the Children, to come out, unfortunately, at the beginning of an era where we had a pandemic. Prices of comic books were inflated. Golden and Silver Age mainstream comics were disappearing. Many reasons, people were doubling down and buying silver and blue chip keys. People who weren't in the community were purchasing books in the community. People with money to hide money, so to speak. And obviously, the Marvel Comics MCU also did much to dry up a lot of people were FOMOing. No, nothing against FOMO. You know how I feel about FOMO. I'm a fan. People were FOMOing. On top of that, right? On top of that, CGC, they made a move, right? They started hosting and having private signings so that they could recoup money. One of the things that people don't pay attention to is when it comes to CGC, right? CGC is a grading company, and they would much prefer to be grading Amazing Fantasy 15s over whatever book just dropped last week, right? They'd much prefer to be grading Giant Size X-Men's and Fantastic Four #1s. Well, this stuff is drying up. They've graded a majority of it. So how do they continue to make their money? Because remember, they make a premium on these books. So what they did was they started hosting these private signings, which they're very successful at. Perfect storm of event. All of this stuff is ingredients in a pot. COVID hits. Stores don't open. But this book just dropped in October. Donny Cates' Stores, another one dropped in December. These are like really good books, right? This book just dropped in October. People picked it up. They picked up the Frisson cover is what people actually picked up. That was the one that people were, oh, the Frisson cover is really cool. They were leaving the Lee cover on the table. And listen, the iconic A cover was ugly then. Let's keep it real. Something That's Killing Children fans, chime in. You're probably going to be the ones who say, oh, no, I love that cover from the jump. You didn't. You didn't. You didn't. That's why it's the scarcest cover. Because you didn't love it from the jump. Nobody did. It wasn't a great cover compared to, say, that Frisson cover and even that Lee cover, which was bought even less, actually. People bought the A cover and really bought the Frisson cover C. It was the one that they thought was really cool and had the high had the glossy cardstock. On a segue, always buy the A cover, period, point, and blank. Always have cover A. Barring exceptions, first cover appearances or what have you, always have cover A. You know I'm going to say that. Have to say it. That haven't been said. So we have this perfect storm of events that pushed Something Is Killing the Children. We have this very consumable book that people want to read. I remember when I first got it, I was like, oh, the name is just, okay, you got me on the name. And then I read it and I'm like, all right, this is pretty cool. It only took me a couple of minutes to read. I consumed it. I'm like, I want to see what next issue brings. And then the next issue and the next issue. And it was very quick reads. Nothing brilliant, but not bad. Not bad at all. And then we watched this book slowly but surely increase. And of course, I think market inflation contributed. I think demand, supply not equaling demand contributed. There was no talk of an option, none. We're just talking about a good book. The market, a very small portion of the market, determined that this was a good book. And when I say a very small portion, we're talking if there's 65,000 copies in print, there you go. That's a small corner of the market. Very, very small corner. And we're talking across covers, right? Small corner of the market. The Something is Killing the Children fan base and community is small. Hate to break it to you, but it is. It is. It's probably larger than the amount of copies in print for sure because of trade paperbacks and word of mouth. And obviously anything after issue 15 is just printed to the high heavens, right? So, but that initial Something is Killing the Children market was a small market. Small amount of people. Walking Dead, right? Walking Dead #1, which was, the biggest book, the biggest indie book of the 21st century, and probably still is. Very low print run, which means a very small market. It didn't get the fame and the following that it got until television series brought people to the books, and retailers were really selling a lot of copies of that book because of the popularity of television series, coupled with the scarcity of the early issues of the book. Everybody wanted in. We don't want to miss, but we want in. We missed #1. We don't want to miss. I think that thing went back to print 5, 6, 7 times. I can't remember, a lot. And it'll go back to print again. So getting back to Something is Killing the Children. Obviously, we have 10 plus prints of Something is Killing the Children. Y'all do the math. There's 10. Someone will say, no, there's at least 10 prints of Something is Killing the Children if you include Boom's exclusive 5-pack bundle remakes. It's at least 10 prints. If you include the pen and inks that they did twice, if you include some people's convention exclusive reprints, at least 10 prints of Something is Killing the Children. Okay, so we're talking about why it's an anomaly. And we have all of these ingredients that go into why this book did something that no other book in the history of comics did, which was achieve sustainable value in the fastest period of time. And it stayed there. Didn't drop. There was no drop off. People predicted, there's going to be a drop off. Now, mind you, this book was only supposed to go 5 issues, which is why #6, the COVID issues, the Ghost came out. So that the #1 6 print, all these things came out during COVID. Why they are so hard to find. Thank you. Really appreciate that. Comic Sense Shop is up. Appreciate that, Sean. Why these books are so hard to find. First of all, it was a 1 in 25 ratio variant. It was the first ratio variant of a Something is Killing the Children book. First one per store as well. Thank you variant was issue #6. So we want to talk about investment, right? And why we've been saying since 2021 that at least 1 through 15 are books you shouldn't have gotten rid of. If you have them, don't get rid of them. Issue X, Comic Sense. I'm saying don't get rid of them. It was only supposed to go 5 issues, and people loved it. It was hot. So James Senior decided, okay, we're going to go 15 issues. Issue 15 came, loved it. It was hot. All right, we're going to keep this thing going. Now you have a Something is Killing the Children universe. Books of Slaughter, House of Slaughter, television series coming. James Tinian tweets out picture of the season 1, episode 2 script done. So what do we have here? In my opinion, the potential behind this book is big. It's really big. And the reason why, I remember early on, there's a scene in the book where in broad daylight, a kid. So we already know that the theme of the book is there are monsters that only children can see, right? And also the members of the house or the Order of the Dragon, the various orders can see these monsters, and they are sent to take care of these monsters, not necessarily for good reasons, for their own reasons. Generally, they tend to be for good reasons, but for their own reasons. So there's a scene very early on, and I'm telling you this, I'm spoiling this for you because I want you to picture this, on your television screen on Netflix via animation or live action. There is a scene very early on where, in broad daylight, adults watch a child be ripped apart by something they cannot see. You've seen The Walking Dead. You've seen how that has impacted people. Some of the scenes, some of the what happened with Glenn, just any of that. You've seen it, and you understand the impact that it had on people. It was gripping. It was real. Even though we're talking some post-apocalyptic zombie stuff, just some of the graphic nature of it translated very well. So imagine the scene that I just described on your television screen. Imagine how this television show, just the name alone, is going to impact, very least American viewing audiences on Netflix. Just the name. Something is killing the children. It's like we only find them when they're dead. These things give you pause. We used to have TV guides back in the day, right? You flipping through the TV guide, something is killing the children, you stop. Hold on, wait a minute. You know how names sounded cool? And even though there should be no, it's not a cool name. If we're talking, we don't want children to get killed, but you understand what I'm saying. It gives you pause. Will Negger says the series is hot. The first 10 books is where it's at. Pick it up now. Stephen Consigliacci, do you think these latest issues of SIKT is keeping the book popular? Sorry, I need to blow my screen up a little bit so I can read. Is keeping the book popular, number 35 to 40, or do you think this number 0 issue is just to try to get the franchise back on track and get the number 1 nostalgia back? Sean Mallory, SIKTC takes all our childhood fears of the monster under the bed and ratchets it up to 100, like Star Wars tapping into the young wanderers here, and Harry Potter with We All Want to Be Found to Be Special. Add some Stranger Things into there. I'm back in the TV guide days. Right, Peter? You know what I'm talking about, bro. So to speak to what Steven is saying, do I think these latest issues of Something is Killing the Children is keeping the book popular, number 35 to 40, or you think this issue 0 is just a try to get the franchise back on track, get the number 1 nostalgia back? It's an interesting question. As a creator, I'm assuming that James Tynion wanted his every single book he puts out from this run to be as hot as number 1, but I have to keep in mind that he never intended to go beyond issue 15. So there are a rabid core of fans, and you have to really take this with a grain of salt, right? Half of these fans just collect the book, don't read it. I happen to be one of them, right? I stopped reading after issue 15. It no longer interested me, just to keep it real. It just didn't hold my interest any longer. However, so you have half of the fan base that I think, or at least a percentage of the fan base, and maybe not half, that collect because I want to have every issue. I want to have every exclusive. I've been on board since issue 1, and I want to make sure I have it all because I don't want to miss a first Michonne, or I don't want to miss a first Governor, or I don't want to miss. And then you have people that actually read it and actually enjoy it. And there are a ton of people that actually read and enjoy this book. So to answer your question, I think this is just the natural progression of a comic series that is successful. Hundreds of copies get ordered every week so people can get these exclusives and these ratios. Every month. Hundreds and hundreds of copies. So I think it's just a natural progression. Yes, it's going to go 35, 40. It's building up to the 0. And then I think he's going to go as long as it's successful. And I think he's going to operate at a level necessary, because when you start talking options, then you start talking television deals, that changes the game. Yes, Department of Truth is optioned, right? From James Tynion. But the one that is in production, look at George R.R. Martin. He's never going to write another book again. It's a wrap. It's a wrap. Millionaire. Won't finish the Game of Thrones series. Not going to happen. Care what anyone says. Millionaire. Got that option. Went into production. His bread is buttered there. James Tynion's bread is buttered in the Something is Killing the Children or Slaughterverse. So it stands to reason you continue to put out as many comics as you can, as long as you're going to get a green light to get a television show. And if that television show is hot and they continue to pick up seasons, let's build this universe. It just so happens that James Tynion is a man who seems to be very passionate about creating comics, and he creates a lot of comics. And I'm not sure that any more than Robert Kirkman stopped, that he's just going to stop putting out a ton of books. But no, I think that this is just a natural progression of having a successful comic book with hundreds of copies being ordered every month. Speaking of 35 through 40. I just think that's the natural progression. I'm not sure that they care about bringing the luster of #1 back as much as continuing to capture new readers and keeping the readers that they have, to be honest with you. Del Guzman. What up, Del? Talking about Jubilee solo movie. Stop it. Shout out Del Guzman. Shout out to the Comic Menu podcast. Wilton Negrin said he stopped because of that. Diageo Mallard said, I think they tried that with the House of Slaughter, not #0. House of Slaughter is, it's a part of the universe. It's not obviously as well received as Something is Killing the Children. Listen, those are books I wouldn't leave on the table, that early run of House of Slaughter. And we're going to get back to it. I want to get back to the spec part of this. That early one of House of Slaughter, though, don't leave them on the table. I'm going to get back to the spec part. So if this TV series, which I think it has more in its favor. The only thing that could hurt this TV series if it just comes on television and sucks. If it just straight sucks, then it's a wrap on everything. I don't think that'll tank the book, but I think it's a wrap on future investment potentials. But this could be the next Walking Dead. And what I mean by the next Walking Dead, I mean its impact on American pop culture. I'm here to tell you, we will never not see The Walking Dead. It's Star Wars. 30 years from now, someone will be making a Walking Dead reboot, a Walking Dead something. This doesn't mean that The Walking Dead is going to be on our television consistently for the next 30 years. What I'm saying is The Walking Dead has crossed over into the realm of American pop culture. It is one of those things that, like a Star Trek show, you get the next generation. We will be getting someone will say, oh, remember that old Walking Dead TV show that was so iconic? How about we reboot that? How about we go back to that world? It is going to happen. We will never. This is Star Wars. We always talk about identifying trends before they become trends. I'm identifying something. I am telling you that if every Walking Dead TV show stops tomorrow, The Walking Dead has crossed over into American pop culture. It is iconic. Everyone knows what it is. We will see it again. Maybe not in my lifetime. Maybe not in some of your. It'll come back. We will see some iteration of it. It is here to stay. Period. Something is Killing the Children has that potential. First of all, it is going to catch people. Just the name alone. It's going to catch people who never heard of a comic book. Just the name alone. When they see a preview on Netflix, huh? It's going to catch horror fans who never heard of a comic book. If marketed right, it's going to catch that young audience, that Stranger Things audience. The only thing that could stop this thing from being successful is if the acting could just be really bad and the writing could just really suck. The show would have to just suck because they are starting out, and not to mention, there are a ton. I'm going to tell you right now. Unlike The Walking Dead, Something is Killing the Children has a ton of fans that want this show to be successful because they invested in this book. They're going to show up every week and watch the show. And not only are they going to watch the show can suck, and they're going to be like, yo, it's dope. This ain't going to be like The Acolyte. Yo. That show can suck, and those fans are going to be like, yo, that was dope. Give it a chance. I'm around for the next episode. That was dope. That was dope. You're not going to hear any of the talk that you hear about female-led. None of that. It's not happening. Why? Because you have a ton of fans who are sitting on that. But me, I'm sitting on it. Who are sitting on that book. Who've invested in that book. Who want that thing to be successful. I want it to be successful if for no other reason that I love its contribution to comic culture. That it is an anomaly, and it will always be an anomaly. It will always be that book that broke all conventions, all of the standards for aftermarket value. I mean, no comic in the history of comics has achieved the aftermarket value in the period of time that Something is Killing the Children did. Never happened. Wilton says 1 through 10. I like 1 through 15. Sean says Something is Killing the Children has a recognizable look, and Erica has that it factor. Absolutely. The teeth bandana will enter the lexicon once you see it on TV. Thank you. It's the it factor. It is the name, the look of the character, all of these things that come into play that just make it something consumable, immediately consumable. Something that you're going to watch at least once if you have no idea what it is. I'm going to check it out. I'm going to watch a preview. Just talk about it at the water cooler. You heard of the show? It's called Something is Killing the Children. It's going to be provocative. It's going to be controversial. It's going to be all the things, just the name alone. To the person who's never read a comic book, who's never walked in a comic shop, to Martha, who's 70 and works as a clerk at the hospital, who taught, she like, Something is Killing the Children. What could it be? I'm either appalled, or I'm going to watch it, or I'm going to, that alone. So again, to those who left that book on the table, to those who decided it's time for me to bail on this book, forget the television series, right? It's a book you should be sitting on. It's a book you should have been sitting on. For the reasons I stated earlier, that it is an anomaly. And it is not an app. When I say an anomaly, it's not one of those flash in the pan. People say this all the time, right? All that book is $200-$300. It'll be in dollar bins. It'll never be in dollar bins. Never. Its print run is never going to suddenly increase. Never. The supply is never going to equal the demand. Never. Erica Slaughter is never not going to be iconic. She's iconic. She is the most iconic and recognizable indie character of the 21st century, not named Daryl, who wasn't even in a comic. Okay, there probably are some more iconic indie characters. I mean, Invincible is pretty iconic. Okay, I'll give you that. There's some saga characters, but she's up there and has potential to surpass them all. And I agree with Wilton. The first 10 books, like he said, and that's speaking to my point, the print run on those things, I believe it was number 11, where they put out the 1 in 100 to increase sales. We're talking some of those second prints, number 4, for instance, less than 400 copies, just over 400 copies in print, period. Some of them 800 copies, under 1,000 in print, period. And the reason why I say the first 15 is because that was, so he only planned to do 5 issues. When it pushed past 5, he said, I'm going to do 15. So to me, that is considered the vanilla run. 16 is when you had 70 exclusive covers. 70 exclusive covers. Think about that. So every time you do an exclusive cover of a book, you're required to order so many copies of the actual book. 70 exclusive covers. So I like 1 through 15. I consider that to be the vanilla run. I have everything in print. I'm not trying to brag or anything. To tell you that I like it is what I'm doing. Everything in print from 1 through 15. Every cover, everything from 1 through 15. I like 1 through 15. I like the vanilla run of 1 through 15. I think that is the point. From an investment perspective, you're safe at. However, this doesn't mean you leave the first governor on the table. He didn't come until issue 30 of Walking Dead. Cutter, for instance, who comes in issue 21 of Something is Killing the Children, right? You want to have these appearances. A book can have a high print run and still see value. How about Amazing Spider-Man number 300? Right? A book can have a high print run and still retain its value and still have value and still be sought after. You're talking about a book with an iconic cover and an iconic first appearance in Venom, right? So many mainstream non-comic consumers know that cover, recognize that cover, own that book. Just the reason why. I mean, New Mutants 98, ridiculous print runs, tons of 9/8s, but yet it still has its value. Just to give you two examples of books that can have high print runs, really high print runs, and also still have value. Again, value is determined one and first and foremost by what people are willing to pay for a thing. But another factor that goes into value is supply and demand. You got 1 million copies of a book, but 5 million people got that book. I want that book. There's your value. Not enough supply to meet demand. People start paying more to be in that 1 million copy club. This is what it is. I do not have the ALA variant at all. It's a very dope book. I do have a previews, but I don't have the ALA variant. I like that. That's what killed it for me. Too many covers. Yeah, that's same for me. Same for me. Too many covers. It was like, all right, I'm good. I'm good on that. So let's talk about the tripartite power. And there's a couple other things I want to talk about too. We're going to stick with something that's killing the church as a theme, and we're going to be going back and forth with that. But that tripartite power that came out, books that came out in 2019 that are a part of the tripartite power that you can still afford. All books that were affected by COVID, all books that have early issue low print runs that are valuable, all books that have what we call COVID books. These would be Once and Future, Philadelphia. And I want to talk about them individually, by the way, because Once and Future has 30 issues. 30 issues. If you don't have them, go get them. The first 10 issues have a dumb, stupid, low print run. It's dumb how low the print run is. Why? The book came out in August or July of 2019 and then ran through COVID. So number one has a higher print run, and which is generally the case with comics. But there's a huge drop off between number one and number two. It's big. Number 7 is the COVID issue. It's the issue with the one per store, the first one per store of that run. It's the issue with the first ratio. Yeah, I believe it was a 1 in 10. I think it was a 1 in 10. But it's the issue with the first ratio, the one per store. That would be issue number 7, a COVID book. Number 8, extremely low print run. Second print, extremely low print run. Number 9, extremely low print run. So why do we like this book? I remember when it came out in 2019, I thought this was instantly the most optionable indie book out. High quality. Boom is still putting out the high quality pages. Beautiful colorist, the best colorist in comics, Tamara Bonvillain, to be honest, best color in comics, colorist in comics, period. The colors totally complement the story. Great characters. A character, in my opinion, an old woman who's, to me, has the potential to be as iconic as Erica Slaughter. She was actually my favorite character that year. Shotgun-toting old woman who pretends to be ailed and lives in a nursing home, but not really. She comes from a long line of monster hunters. And when I talk about, I'm talking like monsters like Beowulf, right? Like your Arthurian legend type monsters, not just like, oh, I'm just going to go kill some, something that's killing the children type monster. Like actual named historical fantasy monsters. Her family comes from a long line of killing them. And right now, it's kind of a zombie book, right? The theme is the kings are undead, because King Arthur is this undead zombie who's coming from Arthurian legend to try to take over Avalon or England. And it's really dope. You get some dope characters, the Black Knight, the Green Knight, all kind of dope characters, Excalibur. You get all these things in this amazing 30-issue run written by Kieran Gillen. And if you don't know who Kieran Gillen is, we are talking about a man who wrote, some of the most important indie dope, not just indie comic. Listen, he wrote Die. He wrote Once and Future. He went over to Marvel, and I kid you not, Neil Gaiman could not make the Eternals readable. Neil Gaiman couldn't make the Eternals readable. Kieran Gillen did that. Then he went over and rewrote Immortal X-Men. He just dropped the hottest indie book of 2024 called The Power Fantasy. You know, that book that isn't cover price 10 minutes after it came out. And Wilton, Dan Mora on the art, ridiculously good art. Everything about that book, the production on that book from cover to cover, colorist, art, writing, inking, cover to cover, 30 issues. Listen, it's going to be a finite story. It is, to me, still one of the most optionable indie books, Once and Future. Written by the Kieran Gillen. You're sleeping on Kieran Gillen. You need to stop. Peter. Listen, bro. I love Peter Maresca. It's my dude. Listen, bro. You can't win them all. Like, he didn't suck because Iron Man sucked. It did. He said he stopped reading Kieran Gillen after his terrible run on Iron Man. It did suck. But he didn't suck because he just didn't win on that Iron Man book. His Immortal X-Men is great. Power Fantasy #1, great. Die, great. Once and Future, like, he's just got a string of great books to just bail on one. Yeah, not everybody, you know, there's some of my favorite writers like I wasn't always feeling Larry Hama's Wolverine. And in many cases I was. So Once and Future is another book that is still on the table. It is still available. It is something that people still buy to this day. I know I have a shop. I sell the book. Meaning I sell back issues of the book. Whenever I post them on the page, people buy them. People still buy that book. They should still be buying that book. There's a reason why, you know, a year and a half after the series finished, people still buy back issues, especially that early run. Another book written by Rodney Barnes, television writer, writing the winning time on HBO Max following the Lakers. He writes The Mandalorian. He created Philadelphia. What is going on in the Philadelphia units right now is pretty brilliant. He brought in Spawn. He's brought in Savage Dragon. He's brought in Blackula. He brought in Anansi. The premise of Philadelphia, also a book that came out in 2019, it takes place in the projects in Philadelphia, and John Adams, the president, starts off as the biggest villain in the book. He is a vampire, as is Abigail Adams, as is Thomas Jefferson. Right? Here's the premise. Like, what a premise. What a premise. And the Sangsters, father and son, are the protagonists of the book. The father obviously ends up getting killed and becoming a vampire. The son takes his place. They're both cops. They were estranged. Now they're cool, forced to be. It's a very much a dark noir vampire story that takes place across history. Werewolves have been introduced into this universe. Spawn is now in this universe. Savage Dragon has popped up in this universe. It's the big thing that's going on right now. Blackula is in this universe. It is a phenomenal, very well written, amazing comic book. And not only is it amazing, low print runs across the board for those first 7 issues. Not cover price, for sure. Not cover price. It has been looked at because it's Rodney Barnes. I mean, if you get the first issue, people who review it are people like Chris Rock, and because it's Rodney Barnes, who is and has been attached to Hollywood, is working in Hollywood and is working very successfully in Hollywood. There have been rumors that Michael B. Jordan has been looking to purchase the property. Several people have been looking to purchase that property. When that property is purchased, not if, when that property is greenlit, it's a wrap. It's a wrap. It's the reason why you always hear Issue X preaching Philadelphia, 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 Once and Future, Philadelphia, Once and Future, Philadelphia, along with Your Something is Killing the Children. These were the 3 books that dropped in 2019 that really rang bells. We're talking about consistency too, right? Once and Future went 30 issues. Philadelphia is on issue 40. Philadelphia just dropped issue 35 last week. and Something Is Killing the Children is on issue 40. So some of the ingredients that are necessary for success are there. Consistency. The book isn't going away. Artwork, Jason Sean Alexander. Writing, Rodney Barnes. This is what we're talking about. Consistency. These are better produced books than Something Is Killing the Children, to be honest, and not to take anything away from James Tynion. Listen, James Tynion's not writing. Something Is Killing the Children is not Department of Truth when it comes to dialogue and prose and script. It's just not. Werther Dell'Edera is cool and his style is unique, so I can't take anything away from him at all. I was going to say he's no Jason Sean Alexander, but it's such a unique style, and he's not over. The market isn't oversaturated with Werther Dell'Edera work either. Like you just see him there. So let's see here. I want to check out your comics. Kill All Immortals is actually really dope coming out from Dark Horse right now. It's actually really dope. Wilton Negrin says it's been stated that Philadelphia has been picked up. There's an NYC Con edition of Philadelphia, number 30 and 31. That's really good. Those are the only two issues in the run that I don't have is the Con editions. I believe it's 31. There's two different covers of that, two different Con covers, I believe. So I want to also talk about really quickly, and we're going to stick with this theme of universes, right? Philadelphia has a universe. The Nightmare blog. Why can't I think of it? Anita. I had the name in my head. I try to do everything without notes and off the top of my head, using my own knowledge. But it's a comic book called, if you Google Nightmare blog, that is a part of the Philadelphia universe. Those are all very affordable books. When that thing gets optioned, make sure you have that as well. We believe it is going to be optioned. The rumors are that it is. It's been stated that it is. I think it's something that we're going to see on a television screen soon. Now, let's flash forward to 2021 and into 2023, 2024, because, listen, they said that they want to make an entire Geiger universe. They weren't playing. They were not playing. We got Geiger in 2021. Hope you got it. Hope you got it. Hope you're not resting on your laurels. Geiger's a book that's very affordable. You can go get it, put it away, put it in a box. Forget about it. Forget about it. We're not even talking an option. So what? It never got to get option. Never has to get option. Ghost Machine is not playing games. They're not. Geiger dropped in 2021. The next year, they dropped the 80-page giant where they introduced a ton of characters. They didn't just make you pay $8, which is what it was, for this 80-page giant. They gave you a ton of characters, which portend it was a foreshadow of what they were planning to do, because they weren't playing. They said, we're giving you a universe, and they meant it. They meant it. So they gave us the 80-page giant, which gives us our first appearance of Redcoat. Mind you, Geiger number 6 will give you your first appearance of his name is Joe. He's a soldier. Junkyard Joe. Junkyard Joe. Redcoat comes a year later, and the 80-page giant. Then Ghost Machine drops in 2023. Oh boy. Ghost Machine, you got the Rook Exodus universe, you got some Redcoat, you got Geiger, and then you got an insight, an open window. I hope you have Ghost Machine number 1, people. You got an open window into what is coming from Ghost Machine, because the Geiger universe is just one universe that has Redcoat up in there. Geiger is up in there. Rook is in that universe, right? And there's a whole bunch, Junkyard Joe. There's a bunch of characters that they've already established in this universe. But then they have this other universe, right? Where they're giving you like a Fantastic Four type nuclear family. They're giving you angel and a demon who are raised together. They're giving you, which is another story. Then they're giving you this Welcome to Hyde Street universe, which I'm really excited for. If you notice, the Hyde Street Ashcan dropped 2 weeks ago. It's ringing bells all over Key Collector. That Hyde Street Ashcan. There's a Hyde Street book coming, which I'm assuming is going to be an anthology introducing the individual characters that are going to be in the Hyde Street series, because there's a book coming out called It Happened on Hyde Street. which is coming out after the Hyde Street book. And Hyde Street is supposed to be this neighborhood, this neighborhood that's just all kind of, it's like Salem's Lot in Stephen King's universe. Salem's Lot, I don't know if you know that, but like, or like Derry, Maine, right? Like in Salem's Lot, if you ever read Salem's Lot, you find out, if you read the short story, that it has this whole history, right? Like Cujo takes place in the same town as the vampires in Salem's Lot. A lot of people who don't read Stephen King probably don't know that, but it takes place in the same town. Or like Derry, Maine, right? Like it's just this area where just evil things and shady things happen. That is Hyde Street. So pay attention to the Ghost Machine universe. We're not even talking about options, right? We're talking about sustainable comic universes that people are interested in. And when I say people are interested in them, Rook is one of the most consistently good books dropping every month. And when I say dropping every month, Redcoat every month. Geiger every month. Not playing. They have tons. This Ghost Machine could just break off from Image and be its own thing. They have tons of creators, tons of writers. They have a plan. They have release dates for stuff. Be on board. But before we continue, let's go back to 2021 and let us talk about that massive verse, that Radiant Black universe, that cross between Spider-Man and Power Rangers that is still here. That has Rogue Sun, the Dead Lucky, Radiant Pink, Radiant Red, Radiant Black. Radiant Black is now popping up in other Image comic books. There's a comic called Free Agents. Joe Casey, shout out to Joe Casey because I like what he's doing with Dutch. And I like the Free Agents book. And I love these Image and indie homages to 90s superhero stuff. I love it. Local Man, Free Agents. There's another one, Blood Squad 7. I believe Blood Squad 7 actually is the one that is Joe Casey. Sorry about that, with Dutch and Blood Squad 7. I love these books. Love them. Throwbacks to the 90s superhero books. I'm assuming I will see Blood Squad 7 and the Free Agents crossover. Can't wait for it to happen. The reason I'm saying that is because I just finished the last issue of Free Agents, and on the last page, I'm looking at Radiant Black. Dope. Like, yo, Free Agents isn't part of the Massiverse. But these creators are throwing these are callbacks to 90s Image. All of these creators, with the exception of the Massiverse, Free Agents, Blood Squad 7, Local Man, they all, even Midlife, How to Hero at 50, they all are callbacks to 90s Image comics in that shared or attempt at a shared creator universe. So I'm looking forward to seeing if the Free Agents meet up with the Blood Squad 7, and seeing if Local Man has something to do. And, you know, he's a retired hero, and so is How to Hero at Midlife. He's not a retired hero, retired fighter. See if all these guys pop up in each other's books. That would be really cool. Seeing Radiant Black at the end of last year's Free Agents was dope. Shout out to J-Pop. Peter, can you clarify? Oh yeah, it takes place in Salem. Yep. So Hyde Street is like this area in the Ghost Machine universe where crazy things happen. Again, we like the Ghost Machine universe. I like the Ghost Machine universe. I'm telling people, at the very least, have the first issues of these books. But then again, you'd have left Geiger #6 on the table. Junkyard Joe, man, that second print of Geiger #6 for those who collect for investment purposes, man, it's just not cheap. It's like a $60 book. The second print of Geiger #6. So, you know, even the 80-page giant, which gets you the first appearance of Redcoat, right? Like, you don't want to miss these first appearances. Rook, every issue, first appearances. Every issue of Rook. Hope you're collecting Rook. Every issue of Rook Exodus has first appearances. And it's a brilliant book. It's great. It's really one of the great Image books of the modern era. It's a great book. So then, we also want to talk about, let's talk about a mainstream book when we're talking about universes. 24 months to stop the Maker. We are down to 14 months. What am I talking about? I am talking about the Ultimate Universe, written by Jonathan Hickman. Conceived by Jonathan Hickman. He is writing Ultimate Spider-Man. Conceived by Jonathan Hickman. We know if you are reading Spider-Man and if you are reading Ultimates, which is where the main story arc flows through, we know that we are down to 14 months before the Maker returns. What is the Ultimate Universe about? What is happening here? The Maker from the original Ultimate Universe comes, he comes to another universe and he uses his super intellect to take over this universe and eliminate or remove the situation by which many heroes become heroes. And then the ones that he can use, he allows to become heroes, and he uses them in this cabal that controls the world. So he stops Spider-Man from becoming a hero. He stops the Fantastic Four from existing. He stops the Avengers from existing. He stops, and and you see this because the storyline, the main story follows through the Ultimates. It flows through the Ultimates, and then a secondary, it flows through Spider-Man, Ultimate Spider-Man. Black Panther is in its own corner of the Ultimate Universe, though the antagonists of the book are agents of the Maker and a part of his cabal. The Ultimate X-Men are also in their own corner of the Ultimate Universe, but the antagonists who have not yet been revealed, Sunfire, Silver Samurai, are a part of the Maker's cabal. We know that in the Ultimate Spider-Man and Green Goblin's uniform, there's 3 Star Tech uniforms running around. One is Green Goblin, one is Spider-Man, one is Iron Man. Iron Man is currently in, so the Ultimates take place in the future, while the rest of the books take place in the present of this Earth. The Ultimates is in the future. So every time you see Iron Man interact with Peter Parker, he's coming back to the past because he's the reason Peter Parker is Peter Parker, because Iron Man found out what the Maker did, and they've gone back into the past multiple times to try to stop the Maker from stopping heroes from becoming heroes. They have failed 99% of the time and changed history horribly. One time they were successful, and that was with Peter Parker. 99% of it they just messed up history. Messed it up. But this is turning out to be one of the largest teams assembled of active Avengers, because there's so many Ultimates that are being revealed to be members of the Ultimates. 14 months. We are finding out that the end of the story arc, the big story arc, is the biggest, most powerful member of the Maker's cabal, Bruce Banner Hulk, is the big bad at the end of the first arc. It's all culminating on beef with the big bad, who is the Hulk. That having been said, we know that there is a 2-year game plan, 2 years worth of brilliance. I want to post some comments real quick. Sean says, love that Ghost Machine is what Ghost Machine is doing with their second and third prints, making them must-haves with those unique but connecting. Yeah, man, those covers are phenomenal. Love them. Love their second. I love them. Love them, love them, love them. Love the quality, the page quality, card stock, the whole nine. Peter said, DC is trying to catch the Ultimate Universe in a bottle with their upcoming Absolute Universe. Hope it's not another New 52. We're going to talk about that too, Peter, because I love some of the things that they're doing, the ideas that they have with that. And we'll talk about that in a second. So this Ultimate Universe, we know we're getting 2 years worth of books, because that's what Hickman does. He gives you, he doesn't commit for the rest of his life. He wants to do other things. So he gives you 2 years. In this 2 years, if it works, I'm hoping it works, we'll get more. If it doesn't work, it's something you go back to. But in the meantime, you have this really hot circuit of books, 4 books. My favorite one right now is Ultimate X-Men. Love what they're doing with it. I love the way Momoko is built. Never been a fan of Momoko's storytelling. I've always hated when she touched X-Men. Really enjoy the way she's building this world and the slow burn. I love it. I'm a fan. I'm a fan of all the Ultimate books at this point in time. Spider-Man was my favorite. Right now, my favorites are the ones that are must-reads for me are the Ultimates proper and Ultimate X-Men. Those are the ones that are must-read for me. Read them all, but they are must-read. Love it. Speaking of DC's Absolute Universe that is upcoming, they've given Scott Snyder the keys to the car. And what Scott Snyder is doing is building a universe outside of the DC universe called the Absolute Universe. and he's reimagining all of the characters in that universe. But what Scott Snyder has said is there is a 5-year plan that this universe is going to exist for at least 5 years, and that the goal is to have a major event that incorporates mainstream DC and the absolute DC, which could mean at the end of the day, it's a new 52. It could leave us with characters from the one universe and get rid of characters from the other universe and vice versa, for sure. But I like that there's a 5-year plan and that they stated that, yeah, there's no intention of crossing the two universes over anytime soon, that they want to just get these universes, this new universe established. But there's a 5-year plan. Scott Snyder's got the keys to the kingdom, so to speak, for the next 5 years. So that's dope. I really like that. Because, you know, we have no problem historically with accepting that Marvel and DC just copy off of each other. The conversation with someone recently who said, man, Marvel did Blood Hunt, now DC's doing DC versus Vampires. And I'm like, well, DC did DC versus Vampires before Marvel did Marvel versus Vampires. They just did. Just go back and forth. And if it's good, it's good, and we don't care. As long as it's good, then we don't care. Peter said another Crisis on Infinite Earths eventually. Marvel has been playing with making the Hulk a bad guy. Maestro is very underrated, very underrated. Not a mainstream Marvel character, certainly in his own universe. Maestro is a beast, and he is underrated. Really, really underrated. Let's see. Love this from Sean. What else had a 5-year plan? The epic and timeless Sandman. I have beat the finite plan for mainstream comics for years. Yeah. Sandman, 5-year plan. I'm with you there. Good point. Sean Mallory is a DC guy, so if anybody has any reservations about some of the potential for DC, Sean can really, really, really drop some jewels and keep you, you know, at least give you an idea of what it could be potentially. He is a DC guy, so there is that. But yeah, so we have the Ultimate Universe. We got a 2-year plan on that, which is really cool, which means we could get a 2-year pocket of books. Which characters come from the Ultimate Universe into the mainstream universe? Does the Ultimate Universe end up getting destroyed? Does it cross over with the mainstream universe like the original Ultimate Universe eventually did in Secret War? Do we get another Secret War? Where does this go? All I know is the ramifications from the original Ultimate Universe and the original Secret Wars means that you should not leave this one on the table. Because what were the ramifications? Miles Morales, the Maker, God Emperor Doom, all of these things. Miles Morales is the true mainstream, the first true mainstream 21st century Grail. Period. This is what we got from the original Ultimate Universe leading into the end of that universe, leading into Secret War. We got the Maker. We got Eye Patch Nick, Samuel Jackson, Nick Fury. We got Miles Morales. We got God Emperor Doom. We got a ton of cool stuff that people are calling investment worthy. Based upon that, where is Hickman going? What is his intentions with how this thing ends? Is it meant to get rid of the Maker or to establish the Maker as even, you know, more of a, because I love the Maker, as even more of a multiversal threat? There's one thing. Here's the thing, right? And this is something that people don't seem to understand or aren't thinking about. And again, we want to identify trends before they become trends. I'm going to say it here. I would normally say this in the privacy of the Common Sense community, but I'm going to say it to the entire YouTube community as well. You have universal threats in Marvel. Your Thanoses and his Infinity Gauntlets. Sometimes your Dr. Dooms, your Dormammus. Jonathan Hickman is potentially establishing Reed Richards, the Maker, as a true multiversal threat. He's been in the 616. He's been in the original Ultimate Universe. He was there with the God Emperor Doom stuff. He's running the show in this current Ultimate Universe. Think about that. Are we seeing the establishment of not just a major villain in Marvel Comics, but one of the most major villains in the entire Marvel multiverse. Think about it. Really take that in. He's done damage across realities. Peter says Miles Morales and Gwen Stacy and Logan, Jimmy Hudson. Listen, Miles have become a huge, he is a major, one of the most recognizable characters to the youth. Might be the most recognizable character. Somebody asked today in the shop, yeah, who's the most popular character? And they were looking at Deadpool stuff, and they're like, is Deadpool the most popular character, the most recognizable? And I was like, it's Miles. It's Miles. And it's Miles. And I don't want to hate on Deadpool. Obviously, people are talking about Deadpool. They love Deadpool, the movies, the whole nine. People who've never read comics know who Deadpool is. People in countries that don't sell comics know who Miles Morales is. The youth, which runs things, so to speak, never picked up a comic before they're reading manga. They know Miles. They know who Miles is. Period. Miles' name is being mentioned in songs. He's mega mainstream. He's the most recognizable character that is not one of, your Captain Americas and your Spider-Mans and the whole nine. Miles Morales just is. So when you say he's a pillar, he is. Love him or hate him is what it is. Period. Ultimate Fallout 4, the true grail of the 21st century, the first true grail, first mainstream grail, 21st century. It just is. Sean Mallory, is Hickman on the same architect level in Bendis and Miller for Ultimate Universe? Do we get a Miles Morales from this new iteration of Ultimate Universe? Hickman, listen, I don't want to take anything away from Bendis' early 2000 runs, because, Bendis was that dude. So, Sean, I know you're not a big Marvel guy. What I'm going to say about Jonathan Hickman is, for the past 20 years, you could literally call Marvel the Hickman verse. And not all of it, but you can call it the Hickman verse. He created, along with some other writers, and this is not to take away from Bendis, because Bendis is one of the greatest character creators in the history of comics, in my opinion. Right up there with Rob Liefeld. Wow, I said that. He's created some of the most iconic characters, period, including Miles, right? Riri, Naomi, the list goes on. But when you talk about architects of what we know as the modern Marvel Universe, it's Jonathan Hickman. It's L. Ewing on the cosmic side of the house. It's Jason Aaron with what he did with Avengers and Thor. And when you take all of these runs, and it's like these people were talking to each other, when you take all of these runs and you put them together, you have what we know as the Marvel Universe today. Jonathan Hickman's Fantastic Four, Jonathan Hickman's his run on everything, pretty much everything he worked on are building blocks for what we have in Marvel today. Really. It's been said many times, this isn't me saying this, it has been said many times, that if you take all of Hickman, it's called the Hickman verse. If you take all of his works in Marvel, you get a complete idea of what he did, and the way the current landscape of Marvel has Hickman's hands all over it. When you look at the cosmic side, L. Ewing's hands are all over that. But it's Hickman is kind of like been orchestrated. Secret War, all these major events were orchestrated by Hickman to include the end of the Ultimate Universe, this current Ultimate Universe. So I would say, as far as creating characters, not on the same level as Bendis. As far as an architect, as far as a person who lays the foundation for things to come years down the line, that you still build on, it's Jonathan Hickman, for sure. For sure. Sean says, for an entire generation across the world knows Miles as Spider-Man, not as Spider-Man, but the Spidey. Absolutely. Absolutely. For a whole generation. Peter says, Spider-Verse movies are the best. Spider-Man movies made to date, live action or animation. I disagree. I think, oh, wait. I'm interpreting that wrong. The Spider-Verse movies featuring Miles Morales are the best. Period. I thought he meant Spider-Verse movies. That would include Madam Web, and no. But I know what you're saying, Peter. I misread that and misinterpreted what you're saying. The Spider-Verse across the Spider-Man, absolutely. Period. I agree that Hickman is to Marvel what Jeff Johns was to mid-2000 DC, and I love Hickman's Avengers and Secret Wars, but I don't see any character that has stepped out from him. G. Willow Wilson gave us Kamala Khan, for example. Right. Hickman, I mean, yeah, I don't think Hickman is that guy who's creating characters, right? I think he's taking characters and making these characters something, using them in a way that you can call him an architect. But is Hickman creating some of the most iconic or memorable characters? He's not. He's not. I agree, Sean. Hickman's Avengers run was great, even though you needed an advanced science degree to understand it. That's one of the problems with Hickman. When you were reading House and Powers of X, and he's talking about Kardashev scales, and it's like, come on, bro, you're a science, like, we get it. You're a science guy, you really understand this stuff, so and we get it. But when he gets into his groove, you get Dr. Doom #1, right? Or you get the prose and the back and forth. Listen, J. Jonah Jameson and Uncle Ben, I'd read their own comic. It was just like a buddy cop reporter comic. I'd read it. It's really great. Their interaction is written really well. Really enjoy it. So yeah, the Ultimate Universe, I wouldn't leave it on the table. I think that what comes from this could be very important for a long time to come. It's interesting how something that is happening outside of mainstream Marvel has the potential to impact mainstream Marvel in a major way. Don't leave it on the table. One more universe I want to talk about. Got to do it. Got to do it. We got time. Time allows. We got a little bit of time. I'm going to wrap this up. I don't want to be too long. Energon. Oh boy. So everything about the way that Skybound Entertainment has handled this deal with Hasbro has been a delight. It has been a breath of fresh air. Everything about the way they have handled this, right? From their, little obscure stuff, right? Like doing the 2 facsimile editions, the G.I. Joe facsimile edition, the Marvel reprint, the Transformers reprint, like really paying respect to the core original material, just doing that. You don't have to reprint a Marvel book, go through all the lengths to get rid, just paying respect to that lore, paying homage to, like, okay, this is the first one. This is the first G.I. Joe book. Then taking Larry Hama's property and saying, hey, bruh, we're going to let you continue to write your book and we're going to continue to publish it. We're going to do our own thing with all of your characters and create our own universe and bridge these gaps and cross them over with these characters and do our own thing. But on the outside, we still going to just let you write your G.I. Joe book. We're going to continue to put it out. Like, just the respect that they're showing to the game, to the old school, the lore, the core readers who've been reading that thing and awesomeness. And then what they're doing now, their interpretation of the universe, their interpretation of these characters, Cobra Commander, a sci-fi horror, Duke, like Jason Bourne, Scarlet, an espionage action thriller. Destro. What is Destro? Like, what is it? It's good. Chameleon? Stop it. She gives him the business. You read Destro #3? Man, listen. So the way they're introducing these characters, right? Transformers, Void Rival. So I just read everything. I don't want to give too much away because I'm going to be reviewing it. So just read everything again. The only thing that I think leaves a little bit to be desired is Void Rivals. I really am invested in the characters. I'm invested in the universe, right? The thing about Void Rivals that I think leaves a little bit to be desired is that there is nothing original about it. It literally starts off as Enemy Mine, but with a means to give you Jetfire for a brief second. But even that made it worth it because of what, like, everything is seamlessly done. Like, they didn't just sit around and just throw stuff at a wall and see what stuck. They sat down and said, this is what we're going to do. In Void Rivals #1, we're going to have this Transformer. He's going to fly off before he can really do anything. And that's going to have some huge ramifications because he's actually going to go to Earth and revive the Transformers and the Decepticons. Man, Jetfire, really? That's what you do? All this beef that's going on because of you. You could just left him unrevived and went to Cybertron. You went to Earth and just revived them all. So anyway, so there's some things that are left to be desired for me with Void Rivals. I'm enjoying it. I'm invested in the characters. I'm invested in where the story's going. I think that of the writers of the Energon universe, the one who is doing the least interesting things is Kirkman. To be honest, and I'm invested in the book. I like the book. I enjoy the book. I'm going to continue to read the book. I've read every issue. And the reason why I say it, it's in the same way I felt about Ta-Nehisi Coates when he was writing Captain America, right? I thought, it took 5 issues to tell the story that you could have told in 3. And I think you get a lot of that in Void Rivals, right? I think you get, like, when Proximus first appears in issue #7, like, his arc, you could have just told it in 2 issues. I don't know. There's a lot of things that I thought, like, you could have did more with the 12 issues that you've had. That's it. That's my only gripe with Void Rivals. Transformers. So I love this universe. Transformers is awesome. Try to find that book. Try to find 1 through 5 anywhere for cover price. Not going to happen. Go get them, please. Please, 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 please. Go get the Energon universe. I don't think Kirkman has any intention of doing anything else himself with Skybound. I don't think he has the intention, he's not writing a ton of books like he was with Die, Die, Die and all. I think his intention is to focus on, it's Hasbro. We have a partnership with Hasbro to create the universe. Oh man, do you know the benefits that Hasbro has? Hasbro can continue putting out their normal Transformers, Larry Hama stuff, their normal G.I. Joe, Larry Hama stuff, and their normal and then they can put out a whole Energon universe movie. They can do. Listen, it's Hasbro. The toys are going to come. The Energon toys are going to come. The merchandise is going to come. When this cool merchandise drops, and some Transformers collector, I know, I've been on the Reddits, I've been in the wikis, I see the chatter. I pay attention to these things. We identify trends before they become trends. I see it. I see the chats. People who don't read comic books are talking about the Energon universe stuff. I just read a whole thread today when Baroness put on her Joe uniform and the Energon universe special. Tons of people who don't read the comic book are like, yo, when are we getting this toy? Really? This Energon universe, of all the universes we talked about, has the most potential to attract mainstream non-comic collectors to invest in the properties, the potential properties, be they toys, t-shirts, comic books, and the potential for toys, t-shirts, comic books, cartoons, television series is high. Why? Because Kirkman has had how many television series? There's Outcast, Walking Dead was a really successful series. I think he had another Invincible, something like that. I think it's. This is why you should not be leaving the Energon universe on the table. Because Hasbro partnered with somebody who can make a property that can be successful on television. Mega successful on television. And he's done it in both genres, right? Live action, animated. Check both boxes. Outcast is not so great, but Walking Dead, Invincible, checks 2 boxes. So the potential for us to see a cartoon universe, which would be really dope. Really dope. That would be the way to go, right? More than a live action cartoon. That would really be the way to go. That would bring in an entirely new generation of watchers, of viewers. That would really be the way to go. Really be the way to tell these stories. Cartoons, animated movies, the whole nine. These are people that seem like they want to pay respect to the lore. So we get an animated movie, then we get a bunch of cartoons with another movie like they used to do back in the day. Transformers #2 gives us the first appearance of Duke. Not in a backup story, not in a preview, in the story proper. We just got to figure out what time all of this takes place, right? We know that Void Rivals is set not in the same time period as Transformers. It's like taking place right before it. Duke is ahead of Transformers, right? Because we know what happened to Duke is something he saw back in the day when he encountered Transformers. So we got to figure this out, and we'll figure it out. G.I. Joe is going to give us some information, and we're building towards a G.I. Joe team, 2 G.I. Joe teams. If you've been reading the Energon universe, we're going to get 2 G.I. Joe teams. We already know who's going to be on that Cobra team because Scarlet, there's rumors that Cobra already exists. Obviously, if you've been reading the Energon universe, Cobra does not exist as a team yet, but in the Scarlet book, they're already aware. So we got to figure out what time period they're not all taking place at the same time. Because in the Scarlet book, they are aware that there's a growing threat called Cobra. In Destro's book, Destro has met Cobra in Cobra. He's kind of working with him, but we know he doesn't really want to be working with him. He's right now beefing Tomax and Zaymot and the Crimson Twins. He's got beef with them because, their interests are clashing. They do the same thing. Transformers is tough. It's a tough read. It's a very tough read. It's really tough. Listen. They kill Bumblebee in issue 1, and he stays dead. Spoiler alert for all of those out there in YouTube land who seeing issue X for the first time, who doesn't know what I do. I read, and I talk about what I read. We like to inform our community. This is the most informed community in comics. Shout out to the Comics Sense community crowd and crew. By the way, I need y'all to like and follow Comics Sense on Facebook and join our Comics Sense Facebook group. Check us out on YouTube. Subscribe to the channel. Follow us on Instagram. That having been said, they kill Bumblebee in issue #1. And I mean, anyone who knows the Transformers and understands the lore, they're always in a desperate struggle. It's never plush. It's never, we have the upper hand, let's go pound out the bad guys. It's always, we are 1 bullet short. We're outnumbered. We're outgunned. Always. They get revived. They beef the Decepticons. The Decepticons outnumber them. Bumblebee gets killed and does not come back. Dead is dead. issue 1. Peace out, Bumblebee. Oh, this is what we doing? This the type of series we're along for the ride on. This is what it is. How about a gut punch out the gate? Let's give Optimus Prime some losses. Some stuff to really have to mull over and sink his teeth into. Like, hey, just keep dying. There's torture going on up in here. Starscream just squeezing people. It's crazy. Transformers, very gripping, really good stuff. So yeah, man. Be on board on the Energon universe. Too much potential to leave it on the table. I'm almost at a loss for words at trying to describe and implore you to understand, if you collect for investment, one of the most important universes that has dropped from indie comics in the past. It's Transformers. It's the Energon universe. It's Void Rivals. It's G.I. Joe. So I was reading an article today and doing some research for this. And first of all, just to be clear, the research that I did for this was because I want to review them. But the research that I did for this is I read them all. I read everything in print from the Energon universe. But I was reading an article today, and actually on Skybound, and they were talking about the G.I. Joe book, the Transformers book, and the Void Rivals books are the cornerstones of the Energon universe. And that all of these little series, which you should know, these little minis that they did are to build towards G.I. Joe. So if you're collecting for investment purposes, you need all the minis. And why do you need all the minis? Well, I mean, Baroness first appears in Duke #2. Destro appears in Duke #1. Cobra appears in Cobra #1. The Dreadnoks appear in across that Cobra series. Rock and Roll appears in Duke #1. Stalker, who's a member of the G.I. Joe team, going to be a member of the G.I. Joe team, appears in Duke #1. Jinx appears in Scarlet #1. Storm Shadow appears in Scarlet I'm naming. Snow Job appears in Scarlet #1. I am naming major G.I. Joe characters that are going to be on these G.I. Joe teams. Tomax and Zaymot appear in Destro #2. Major characters. Major characters. Major Blood appears in Duke #3. Flint appears in the Energon universe. Lady J appears in the Energon universe. Colonel Hawk appears in Duke #1 and the Energon. Like, Duke appears in Transformers #2. And then Transformers. I mean, it's crazy. The appearances in Transformers that go across Void Rivals, right? Shockwave just made his major appearance. You have the first appearance of Hot Rod in Void Rivals. The first appearance of Springer in Void Rivals. The first appearance of Jetfire is in Void Rivals #1. So which ones do you have when these things begin to take off? When these universes begin to stretch or make their way out of mainstream comics, or excuse me, independent comics, and into mainstream, other forms of mainstream media? Which ones do you have? Who's going to be the character when you have so many characters and so many people choosing the characters that they want to follow, and many of these characters have high potential for popularity? A Storm Shadow, for instance. Baroness, always very popular. Scarlet has her own series. When does Snake Eyes pop up? Zartan's, we haven't seen him yet. We've seen his brother and his sister and the Dreadnoks, and we've heard his name mentioned. We haven't seen Zartan, or have we? That would be dope, right? Or have we seen Zartan? Just want to make sure to, kick it with y'all. Check out your comics. So Sean Mallory says those EU toys will come. And if Kirkman, let me see here. And if Kirkman they'll have reprints of the early Transformers and Joe comics. Just watch those back issues blow TF up. I agree. Back to Sean Mallory with what Skybound, DC, Marvel, Image Boom, and Vault with Barbaric, which we didn't talk about. Man, if you aren't loving comics, I don't know what to tell you. Barbaric is really dope. Really dope, by the way. Love Barbaric. Wilton says another universe that has potential is the Spawn universe, especially if McFarlane ventures outside of Spawn, like Invincible, Philadelphia, etc. Keep that momentum going. It's too cliche to just different versions of the same character. I agree. And that's what I think Todd McFarlane has to do with the Spawn universe. It's got potential. I don't want to keep seeing different iterations of Spawn populate. And I'm with you on that. I think that's the only thing that holds it back is that everything is a Spawn that he wants to focus on. And I think that's, man, pick up some creators and let them build in your world. That's what I would do. I'd get some talented creators and just, here's my sandbox. These are the rules. Come play in it. Absolutely, he does. But so if you've been following the Transformer series, yeah, man, it's tough. But then watch, if you see, there's been two big bosses, right? The first was the Constructicons, who formed Devastator, and listen, Optimus Prime was like, "Yo, I had enough." You read issue number 6 and see what he did to him. Yo, yeah, yes, it's crazy because the way the writer writes it, right? You could tell he's having fun because in issue number, it's either 5 or 6, where the Constructicons form Devastator and they're beating everyone up, and they beat up everybody to include Optimus Prime. And Optimus Prime is he's gonna lose. He's gonna die. And I forget his name. Walks into the Matrix and kills himself to restore Optimus Prime. And Optimus Prime gets up. Listen, the way the writer writes it, right? Like Optimus Prime gets up and he's like, y'all know the music. He literally writes it in the background. You know the music. That theme, to transform more than because you already know was coming. He just writes in the background behind Prime. You know the song. Like literally, as Optimus Prime whoops out Devastator. Like whoops him out. Wins. Like wins. And then now you got obviously the next main bad guy is was it Bruticus? The one with all the tank, the airplanes, they all form to the big war machine one. That's the next big bad. Each arc has been one of those robots that are assembled from several different Transformers as the main villain. Well, I mean, obviously it's Shockwave who's calling the shots, but it's not the Destructo. I forget what it's called, what his name is, Bruticon, whatever they're called. Anyway, so that's the next one that they have to beat. But yeah, he began. I mean, if you look in this comic though, he doesn't really just get beat up. Like, I mean, he beat Skywarp half to death he ripped his own arm off and beat Skywarp half. So this is like, I don't actually, when I really think about it, it's a really tough road for Optimus Prime, but he be winning. He's winning a lot of these fights. I can't think of one where he just outright lost. And when he did lose, it was to Devastator. And then he came back and beat him. But he had Starscream run from him. Starscream ran, retreat like as normal. He got the upper hand on Shockwave. He beat Skywarp. Like, listen, he ripped his own arm off, beat the crap out of Skywarp, like really pounded him out with his own arm. So I mean, Optimus is really, 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 it's tough going for him, but he's winning these fights. Wilton Negrin, you'll see the first real branching out when Gail Simone comes on She-Spawn, like Gail Simone, like what she's doing on X-Men right now. Shout out to J-Rob in the house. Sean Mallory, first off, love the WWE wrestling moves the Transformers use on each other and the cool factor of Prime just chilling with Megatron's arm with the cannon in it. Come on, it's a bad Apple visual. Absolutely. Listen, when he had to use the Megatron's cannon, and yeah, they be using wrestling moves on each other. Power is, yo. Listen, I like, and again, I love the way the writer writes this. He's having fun. You know what I mean? And he's really enjoying it. It's really dope. Yeah, seeing Optimus Prime with Megatron's arm. Listen, the Triplicon, right? The one that can transform 3 ways. The train. what's his name? They treat him like Sabretooth pretty much, right? Like he's been locked up the whole time. He wants to get Megatron's story, right? So this is what I mean, just the way that they incorporate everything, right? Like Megatron has been a prisoner of Cobra La, who are anti-technology. Cobra Commander is the scientist who has picked Megatron's brain and sees that there is an Energon universe. We know Megatron escapes. We know he got beef with Starscream because Starscream tried to kill him or thought he killed him. Yeah, people are saying that Sergeant Slaughter is a part of is saying that he's going to be in G.I. Joe. This was just recently reported. I haven't confirmed that, but this is the second time I've heard that today, that Sergeant Slaughter is in it. Yep, Astrotrain. Astrotrain is like Sabretooth in this universe, by the way. Astrotrain is like Sabretooth in this universe. So yeah, I think this is a perfect end cap because it is the most, with the exception of the Ultimate stuff, and we started this off with Something Is Killing the Children. We're talking about universes that people shouldn't leave on the table. Obviously, Something Is Killing the Children is not something that is affordable, but if you have it, you should be sitting on it. If you can get it, you should be grabbing it. I wouldn't want to get in on the ground floor investment wise I mean, unless you can get it. You know, I know someone who got a copy today that was relatively affordable. Really relatively affordable. I thought the price was dope. So, but if you can't get it affordably, I wouldn't worry about it. There are other things that you should be looking at. I named them once in future. Philadelphia, any of the Ghost Machine titles, go back and get those Geigers. Go back and get Radiant Blacks, the Massive Verse. Go get I don't got to get all the Massive Verse. Have Radiant Black for sure. Have both Radiant Blacks, for sure. And then obviously from 2024, we like quite a bit what's going on with the Ultimate Universe. There are some legs there because one, it's Hickman. Look at what Hickman's written this year, excuse me. Dr. Doom, not a cover price book by any means. Ultimate Spider-Man, not cover price book by any means. This Alien verse Avengers is actually really, really, really good. The symbiote merging with the Alien Spider was dope. It has a spider symbol on his back, like it was dope. I'm sorry, I didn't know that an Aliens versus Avengers book would actually be good. And then I told myself, wait a minute, it's Hickman. Let me give this a shot. Yo, Aliens versus Avengers is really good. Really good. Like the little alien spider merging with the symbiote and actually having the spider symbol on his back and like turning good. It was dope. It was dope. I'm sorry. It was really dope. If you haven't read it, please read it. It's really, 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 really dope. Wilton says it's very affordable now. If the movie comes out or show, then it will be very unaffordable. Absolutely. Absolutely. I agree with that. Talking about Something Is Killing Children. Heading out, always appreciate and dig these chats, comments, rule. Thanks as always. Yo, man, Sean, always appreciate you. Thank you for your contributions. Really dope comments on your part. Appreciate it as much. Enjoy. Thank you for stopping in. So yeah, Energon universe. One you don't want to leave on the table. To me, the greatest potential long-term, Something Is Killing the Children, we're bookending it, right? Something Is Killing the Children, I think, is going to be, I think has the potential to become American pop culture iconic in the way that Walking Dead has become such. I think Something Is Killing the Children certainly has that potential. And obviously, I think the same to end cap it with the Energon universe. There's too much on the table. We're talking about a marriage between Hasbro, who is interested in toys, movies, cartoons, all the other forms of media, and Kirkman, who has successfully created television series, live action, and cartoons based upon successful books. What a great marriage. And right now we're getting the brilliance that is the Energon universe, and the potential for all of the properties that can come from that potential is high. Because again, I've been in the chat groups, I've been watching and paying attention on Reddit to people who are not reading these comics, who are tuned in to what is going on with these properties. Because right now, if they want to follow, you know, these people collect toys and they're G.I. Joe legions. There's so many sites dedicated to G.I. Joe. These people want to follow these characters. They have to go to Skybound. And they have two options. They have the Larry Hama. You're going to have your loyalists who are just going to read the Larry Hama book. And that's not, they're going to say not my G.I. Joe to the other stuff. They're going to be in the minorities when they see that dope Baroness costume as a Joe. And as a toy collector, they're not going to be like, yo, not my Baroness. Anyone who collects Baroness toys is going to go get that action figure or that statue. They are. So there is that. Wilton says Kirkman sleeper series is Haunt. That series needs to be redone. Haunt. I think that was in the Spawn universe, right? Or you might be talking about another Haunt, that I'm not familiar with. Kirkman has done some really good series, and he's done some really bad series. Q die die die. So he's done some really good series. He's done some really bad series. Again, so really quick before we get up out of here, I just want to say, like and follow Comics is on Facebook. Follow the Facebook page, join the Facebook group, check us out on YouTube, subscribe to the channel, find us on Instagram, follow us on Instagram. If you are watching on Facebook, by all means, please take the time to go over to YouTube, click on this video for a couple seconds, a second if necessary, give it a thumbs up, give it a thumbs down, just don't do nothing. Okay then. So that is what it was. We went on. It's time to get up out of here. It's been like an hour and a half. I think that is a good amount of time to talk about these universes. You have been so informed, and we have informed each other. Appreciate you all. Shout out to you, my 3C family. That would be the Comic Sense community, crowd, crew. As always, I am Issue X. This has been a Comic Sense production. Pieces.